What's up, everybody? Welcome back. John Levesque here, and today I am joined by another Microsoft employee, Josh Krodel. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. It's Friday. I'm ready for the weekend.
Awesome, awesome. So for those of you guys that don't know Josh is an ATS. Is that right? Account Technical Specialist.
That is.
Awesome. And so what Josh does
Strategist.
Account Technical Strategist. And so why don't you tell people, what does that mean? What does your job entail?
Well, a lot of that, I feel like I've got one of the best jobs at Microsoft. I get to play with all the cool stuff that we develop for our customers, get really, really familiar with it, and then, really evangelize it with our customers. Really kind of try to pinpoint some of their issues internally and see how our solutions really sync up with resolving some of those issues that they're facing and making their lives easier.
Man, that does sound fun. You guys hiring?
Yeah, man, come on. Always hiring.
Awesome. All right. So Josh reached out to me actually and was asking about bots. And I got him connected to Kent Weir. You guys know Kent, Genius Kent. And Kent showed Josh a couple tweaks to get his bot to where he wanted it to be. But Josh here has built a solution where you can actually on the fly detect a language and then translate all messages to that language so that somebody who's interacting with your bot can do it in their own native tongue. They don't have to try and figure out English if they're not comfortable with it to communicate with the bot. And so I'll go ahead and leave it at that. Josh, go ahead and take over, man. I know you got a slide to introduce yourself with some links, and then take it away, my friend.
Sounds good. And I appreciate that, John. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Josh Krodel, as John introduced me. I am a technology strategist here, primarily working within the Microsoft Education organization. I have approximately 21 years of field experience in the technology field. I am about a year into my tenure here at Microsoft. Very much a dream come true to actually be at this point in my career. It's always been a dream to work at Microsoft. So really being able to, play with everything that we have to offer and really, kind of have that impact both internally here at Microsoft as far as how our products evolve, and really have that impact within our customer base as well to really assist them using Microsoft technologies is just a real dream come true. So I can be reached within my LinkedIn. I'm primarily more active there than I am with my Twitter account that is also listed here. Interestingly enough, I use my Twitter account primarily to do Twitter sentiment analysis with a lot of our Azure services as well. But either one of those links I can be reached at for just communication, not only with Power Automate, but really any of our Microsoft solutions. So would really encourage and love to speak with more of you out there about some of these solutions that we offer.
Better watch out, Josh. That's a big invite.
Hey, I'm what they call a social introvert. So,
Nice.
this is really the way, this is really my speed. So I welcome all the conversations that we can have around these technologies.
Cool.
But, as John mentioned earlier, what we're going to be talking about today is how to do real-time translation with some of our chatbot offerings in a very low to no code way. So when I reached out to John earlier or last month, actually, at this point, I had become proficient with our QnA Maker cognitive service. A lot of the schools in my account base were welcoming students not only back on campus, but virtually as well. And in order to ease that transition, we compiled a number of different knowledge bases containing frequently asked questions that parents, students, and even faculty may have about how to adjust to this quote unquote new normal. QnA Maker is just a fantastic service, very no code. We can build a bot using any kind of knowledge base that we may have, whether that's, questions and answers compiled in Excel spreadsheets, whether that's an FAQ found on our public facing website, even Word documents and PDFs, we can actually import into QnA Maker in order to make a chatbot. And this has been hugely successful in a lot of my accounts and many of my associates' accounts as well. But one thing that we ran into is in a lot of our communities, we speak more than one language. QnA Maker is a great service, but in order to really encapsulate many of those different languages, we have to maintain multiple different QnA Maker knowledge bases, all in the respective language, and multiple different bots to interface with that knowledge base as well. And I was, faced with a conundrum. I was like, there's just got to be a better way, not only for, directing specific languages to specific bots, but also from the administrative overhead. If I was an IT administrator, I don't necessarily want to manage 4, 5, 10 different knowledge bases that are essentially doing the same thing. So, I was racking my brain for about 2 weeks, and then it hit me. I was like, why don't I just ask somebody that's smarter than me? So that's when I reached out to John, and John thankfully introduced me to Kent, who, as John mentioned, is just a genius, and could not have done this without John or Kent's knowledge here. But what we've done is, instead of using the bot that automatically gets created with QnA Maker, we've actually leveraged Power Virtual Agents as part of our Power platform to hand our communication off to a Power Automate flow that calls our QnA Maker knowledge base and then runs all of our inputs and outputs through our Azure Translator Service cognitive service. So what I would like to do this morning is actually take you through the process very quickly. And I say very quickly because it really takes no time at all for you to generate this on your own. So what I'll do is I will go ahead and pivot. And really the only thing that you need in order to get started is a knowledge base. So once you've compiled all of this information, these questions and answers that you want to instruct your educators, your students, your parents on these flows, we can easily import this into a knowledge base within QnA Maker. And QnA Maker can be found at QnAMaker.ai. And it's a very, very straightforward, almost wizard-based process. Once we've logged in with our Microsoft credentials, we can simply create a knowledge base. And this is a 5-step process that we can go through, where it will set up all the services that we need on the back end, as well as importing our knowledge base and making sure that it is trained and grammatically and formatted appropriately as well. And once that is all imported, we can actually give it a personality as well. But at the end of these 5 steps, we will actually have published a knowledge base. So just to run through that process real quick, step 1 will actually take us through creating our cognitive services within Azure. And what's nice about this to get started is a lot of these cognitive services within Azure offer free tiers. So in order to get started, there is no initial investment that you need to make in order to actually get started. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and create a new resource group. And as I said, there are free pricing tiers that we can use. I'm already using a free pricing tier, but that is available for you. So I'll just use the standard pricing tier, and I will give my service a name as well. And then this search cognitive service is effectively the service within Azure that actually parses through our knowledge base as we ask it questions to not only rank the answers, but provide the best possible answer for that input. And again, this also offers a free tier as well. I'm just going to do the basic one because I'm also using a free search tier as well currently. And then it also does, for the runtime, actually leverage an app service, which is effectively a website endpoint live on the public internet that you can reference as well if you are, building external bots and things like that. For the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to disable the app insights for this. And once I do that, I can simply create this cognitive service. This typically takes about 2 or 3 minutes. It's usually a very quick process.
Yeah, and QnA Maker is actually a Microsoft service as well. It's not third party. A lot of people wonder about that. Does Microsoft own this? The answer is yes, they sure do.
Yep. That front end that I was walking through that we're about to go back to, that is all created by Microsoft, not a third party. So this is effectively all first party Microsoft services that we're using here.
And it's funny, I never knew that that mattered to people so much. I only when I joined Microsoft did I realize that people wanted entire first party solutions. I was always like under the impression that whatever works, let's make it work.
Yep, and you do hear that occasionally in different customer bases. They are reticent to quote unquote put all of their eggs in one basket. But what I've found is as these services evolve, they and their connectivity into one another, they just they work better together. So
Yep.
but now that we've got that cognitive service created, we can refresh here. And if we're not too quick on the draw, we should be able to select our new cognitive service. And you may get this message shortly after creating a cognitive service. What I found is typically if you simply refresh and come back, you will be able to access that service. It's just a time synchronization thing between the two portals. So no worries there.
Boom.
And we're selected now. And since our primary knowledge base is in the English language, we're going to select English as the language here. And then we can just give our knowledge base a name. And this is where we actually populate our knowledge base. So as I mentioned earlier, we can leverage frequently asked questions that are live on the public internet. We can leverage PDFs or Word documents. We can also upload Excel spreadsheets. And I have one ready to go.
Nice.
And this spreadsheet here is essentially just 144 pre-baked questions around Microsoft Teams. So as more and more of our educational institutions have begun using Teams for remote learning, this bot has been particularly popular just because, in order to have parents and students get familiar with the technology and limit the amount of strain on our IT departments, these bots have really come in handy.
Nice.
So now this knowledge base has been uploaded. Alternatively, we can give our bot a personality. This is less important here because we're actually not going to be using the QnA Maker bot. We are actually just going to be using the knowledge base and then shifting the bot purposes over to Power Virtual Agents. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and create our knowledge base. And this typically only takes a couple of minutes as well. So now once we have imported our knowledge base, we can actually go through and review all of the questions that we've imported just to make sure the formatting looks good. If we need to clean anything up grammatically or, parsing wise, some indentation or line breaks, we can do all of that here. And this is effectively where, as part of our bot development back in the older models where we've been using a lot of code, this is effectively where we've been training our bots. So I've used this knowledge base before a couple of times. I know that everything is formatted properly here, so we can go directly to publish.
I'm pretty impressed at how well the formatting came across, like from an Excel spreadsheet to there. That was pretty nice.
Yeah, it's very, very intelligent, and as the service gets used more and more, and use cases evolve, the technology behind it really evolves as well and makes it much more user friendly. So now that our knowledge base has been published, let's go ahead and keep this tab open because a lot of these post calls that we need, these variables here, we'll need to reference later in our Power Automate flow. So we'll just leave this tab open and we'll actually at this point go back to our Azure portal as well. And we'll go into our newly created resource group and create our translator service as well. So we're all ready to shift over to that as we build our bot. So within the resource group itself, we can go ahead and click add, and we can search the marketplace for our translator service. And this is a very straightforward creation here as well. We're effectively just creating a API to reference within our Power Automate flow. So we will just specify the region.
You can just call it a flow.
Give it a name.
You don't have to say Power Automate flow. That's so proper.
It is so proper. But I do miss the days when it was called flow. It just kind of rolled off your tongue a little bit better.
Hashtag long live flow.
Long live flow. And again, these pricing tiers as well, they do offer a free tier as well, but since I am already using that, I'm just going to select the standard tier here. And very straightforward to create. Once we've inputted those inputs, it will go ahead and kick off.
Don't be afraid of that pay-as-you-go thing. This is literally like cents. It costs you cents per run, not dollars, like coins. It's pocket change. So to test this out will not be expensive. To run this on a day-to-day basis, even if you have low amounts of requests, is not going to be expensive. So just don't be afraid of that part.
Exactly. And just the fact that this exists right now is costing you little to no money at this point. It's only when we're actually referencing this API to make translations where that pay-as-you-go model actually takes effect and you actually begin to consume services, which is essentially when you actually start paying for it. So now that we have our translator service, our QnA knowledge base, we can actually pivot over to Power Virtual Agents and create our bot. So once we've logged into Power Virtual Agents, we can simply click to create a new bot. Just give it a name that's somewhat synonymous with the rest of our resources. And since, again, this is the primary language here is going to be English, we can go ahead and select English as our language here and select our Power Platform environment and click Create. So now and this typically takes go ahead, John.
I was going to say one important thing to note there is to make sure that you are taking note of that environment, because if you want to build flows to connect to that, you will have to make sure they are in the same environment and also in a solution. And so I always point out when creating bots or flows, if you're going to use them in cahoots with each other, make sure that they are in the same environment. Otherwise, you're going to be wondering what the heck's going on.
Exactly. And typically you can relate environments to production workloads, sandboxing workloads, test and dev. Typically that's what you see environments used for, but they can really be used for anything that makes sense within your environment, your infrastructure as a whole. Okay, so now we have actually generated our Power Virtual Agent or bot. And what you'll notice here is if we were building this from the ground up, we didn't have a knowledge base to refer to, we would simply come to the topics heading here, and this is where we would effectively program all of our communications. You know, what kind of topics that we wanted to support, whether it's back to school, if we were supporting some technology, a number of our customers have purchased Surface devices, so we could build a topic for, how do I use my Surface? Really any kind of use topic that we want to implement within our bot, we would work through here. But since we have a QnA knowledge base, we can actually just move straight forward in creating what's called a system fallback topic. And what a system fallback topic is essentially just where if we had programmed topics in the first place and the bot could not determine an answer based on the topics and the inputs that we put in here, it would actually fall back to another resource such as Power Automate or Flow. So what we can do here is, since we're referencing a QnA Maker knowledge base, we're just going to have our Power Virtual Agent fall back automatically to Power Automate in order to provide those answers. So we'll just click Add.
Oh, this is cool. I didn't even know this was here.
Yeah, this is nice because, if we already have our knowledge base developed, if we already have topics developed, we don't need to do any more programming. This is very much in line with that low to no code feature set that we offer in many of our products. But at this point, we don't have to do really any coding because we've already compiled all of that data.
Sweet.
So once we've created that fallback topic, we get to the authoring canvas here. And the first thing that we want to do is, since this is a fallback topic, if we had topics that we were trying to question and then the system could not find an answer for that topic, it would then escalate to another action. We don't want to escalate at this point because we're not going to have the Power Virtual Agent referencing itself off the bat. We're going to have it referencing a Power Automate flow. So we're just going to remove this escalate action here, and then we're going to put an action here to actually call out to Power Automate. So if we click this plus, we're going to call an action. And then it gives us an option to create a flow. So we're going to go there.
I love this. This is my favorite part. My two favorite products coming together.
Exactly. This is just insanely powerful for somebody like me that always wanted to be a programmer, but just didn't have that skill set really in line in order to do that. So this has been really just, just a fascinating piece of technology to work with on a day-to-day basis, and just trying to think of all the different ways I can implement these workflows into my daily process has just been amazing for me. And I just, love evangelizing these technologies within my customer base, just because, it's amazing to see their reaction and have those same kinds of reactions that I had. Is, just watching the eyes light up and just start thinking about all the different possibilities they can do with this.
I'm going to say
so when we
as well, it's a big plus for me too.
Absolutely. When we actually call out to Power Automate, it will give us a default flow, but we're actually not going to use this flow because Power Automate actually gives us a template out of the box to call a QnA Maker database. So we'll go to our template setting here.
Love it.
And then we can simply search for generate answer. And you can see there is a template already built for generating answers using QnA Maker.
Nice.
So I already have a connector for one of my other knowledge bases. So I'm going to add a new connection to that new knowledge base that I just created. And we need to input the API key here. So we'll go back and reference that QnA Maker tab here. And then our endpoint key is what we want to reference. So we'll just copy and paste that over to our flow.
Don't you get any bright ideas out there? We're going to turn off this endpoint as soon as this video is done.
Yeah, we want you to create your own and experience this magic that we can create here. So once we've created that connector, it will automatically take us into the authoring canvas. One of the actions that we see here is actually calling that knowledge base. So what we'll do is we'll actually go back to our QnA Maker tab, and we will get the host URL for QnA Maker. And I'll have to just let this sharing bar, there we go. So our knowledge base ID, our service host, and our endpoint key is what we want to reference. So we just copied the service host, and we'll go back to QnA Maker and get our URI. And we can actually remove these portions of the URI here because we just really want to get that knowledge base ID.
And then
we can go and again reference. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I was just minimizing it so I could move between the tabs.
Oh, gotcha.
But we can go back and get our endpoint key. All right. So now that we've input our knowledge base ID, our service host, and our endpoint key, this is where the actual fun starts. This is where we can actually create a variable to capture our question from our Power Virtual Agent, and then actually determine using our translator API what language that input was entered in. And then we can actually translate that input to English. Since our QnA Maker knowledge base is in English, we need to be able to reference that knowledge base in the English language, generate an answer, and then when we found the highest ranked answer, we will translate that back to the original input text language and then output that in the actual language of the user using that Power Virtual Agent. So just really a couple steps here that we need to do. The first action is we want to initialize a variable. And we can simply call this question language. And that's going to be a string. And then we will actually set the variable at that point. And then based on that, we will actually, I'm sorry, we need to actually put our translation API in here first.
Gotta detect the language, right?
We do. So we are going to select detect language. And it's interesting, why is that not referencing?
So it should pull the input text, right? And then from the input text, you'll pass to the variable.
Correct. Yep. And then we want to use the language code from that translation action. And then from there, we can translate the actual text before we actually generate the answer. So the target language is actually going to be English, because our knowledge base is in English. And then the text is going to be our input text. And then from there, we've got our generate answer action that is going to be referencing our knowledge base. And then from there, we will simply initialize our QnA answer variable to capture the output from this generate answer action. And then we need to do a slight modification that's applied to each action. So we are going to be...
I think one thing that you're going to slip on there is your input text inside of your generate answer. Is that the translated text or is that the original text?
Good catch. That will actually be our translated text.
Perfect. Okay, cool. I thought so.
Yep, good catch. So from there, what we'll do is we'll actually translate our output back to our input language from our Power Virtual Agent. So we will add an action here. And then we need to translate that input back. And then what we can do is we can simply just drag this action up above the set variable. Actually, it does not like that. So we'll just drag set variable below.
There you go.
So from here, we will just do the target language. We will use a dynamic action here. And we will leverage the language code that we got earlier. And then the text will be answer from our generate answer action. And then our variable will be set not to answer, but to the translated text from this previous action here. And then the return value will actually be our QnA answer variable that we set during this action.
Nice. Look at that. That
So
is
we can
like,
go in.
it's like 5 minutes and you just built a flow
Yeah,
that takes text, detects its language, sets an answer in English to that language, and then returns that as the answer. Like 5 minutes.
exactly. Yeah,
So cool.
and there was no code, no
Yeah.
code here at all. You know,
Yeah.
you're just using a graphical interface in order to move and direct actions in order to take actions on input that has occurred on the back end.
Yep.
It's very, very
Yep.
powerful.
I always tell people we're building technology with Legos. That's what this is. We're just snapping
Yeah,
things together.
exactly. Exactly. It's so much fun. So what we need to do now is we actually need to add that new flow to a solution. So we can create the solution here.
Oh, that's right. You built it outside of the solution and now you will import it in. Okay, cool.
Absolutely. And we just really need to provide a name there for it and a publisher. Any of these publishers are fine. I'm just going to select a default publisher from my environment and then click create. And then we simply need to come into the solution and add an existing flow. And we'll reference that flow that we had just created.
Nice. So now keep in mind, this becomes a managed solution. This flow now will operate in the context of this item, but you won't see it elsewhere. Now it won't live in your list of normal flows. It's only going to live here. And so if you want to now edit it, you have to come back to this solution to change it, because now this is the only place it lives.
Exactly. And when you click on that solution, it will list any flows that are associated with it. And then you can click on the flow and then it will pop it out here. And then you can do any kind of editing that you need to do right from this pane. So now that we have that, we can simply go back to our Power Automate canvas. And then we can click plus again to call an action. And this, let's see, I have 2 here. So I just created this number 2. So I will click on this.
And this is
And
why
it
we name our
automatically
flows.
pops. Exactly. And we automatically, we put this in here. And this will, we don't need to do anything in here. We just need to select this bot unrecognized trigger phrase to reference the first action here. And then for this message, since, you know, as part of the fallback, we're not doing any kind of escalations. We're just letting the fallback handle all of the communication. We can just make a slight edit here just to make sure that the only thing that it is returning is just the trigger phrase. And then that is it. We can click save.
Sick. This is so cool.
Very much so. Just like building Legos, just like you said.
Yeah. Well, and it just makes me feel like we have so many places that are self-service that are all English, right? That don't offer very good language support. And it just makes me feel like, I wonder if I can make a database, load all that stuff in here, and just hand out this bot all over the place and start using the platform to solve platform problems, you know?
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I did catch is we actually do want to remove this variable here. We could actually just replace this variable with our final answer, because
Okay.
we're going to get the final answer text from Power Automate and then pass that to the message action within the bot itself.
Got it. That makes sense.
Okay, now that has saved. So we should, within our test canvas here, as soon as it refreshes, we should be able to ask our bot, what is Microsoft Teams? And this is actually going in the background and passing this trigger phrase, what is Microsoft Teams, over to our Power Automate flow. And then it will generate an answer based on our knowledge base and then return the highest ranked answer from our knowledge base, which is Teams is a part of Office 365. So the real magic happens when, say, for instance, we are a French student that wants to know about Microsoft Teams. We can take the French question, populate that into our Power Virtual Agent here.
Same exact agent.
Same exact chatbot, and it will go through the same exact flow. And then we will receive the same answer, just in French.
It's crazy. Let's see it in Portuguese.
You want Portuguese? We can do Portuguese.
Portugal, Portuguese. Why not? Oh, that
Portugal,
Brazil. Yeah, that works. Either one. Yeah, that's great.
All right, let's do that.
Man, that is so cool. Holy cow.
And what's really great about this is if we are managing QnA knowledge bases in different languages, we're only able to support the amount of languages that we've created knowledge bases for. So say we have English, Spanish, French, and Chinese. That's 4 knowledge bases that we have to manage. But not only that, is those are the only languages that we can support. Since we're leveraging the translator cognitive service in Azure, we can support all kinds of languages on the fly by managing one singular knowledge base. And I mean, you're talking about all of these different languages. Imagine if I had to manage all of these languages. It'd be a management nightmare from an administrative perspective. With this, I'm referencing an API that can just do it all for me on the fly.
So it'd be like 5 people's full-time jobs.
No question. No question.
Wow. Man, Josh, this is so legit. And and we built all this. We most of the time we've been talking about it rather than building it. And look we're under 40 minutes here, and this is a full solution that does real-time translation. And you know what's cool? I'm actually going to go and I'm going to do this myself, and I'm going to send the results to a couple of friends I know who speak other languages, and I want to see what they say about the quality of the translation too. So that's a separate issue. That's the API and all that. But I'm actually very interested to see, how they would rate this ability to translate, and is it acceptable? Is it passable? Does it work for them? And so, man, this is legit.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I don't know if you can tell. I'm I'm buzzing.
Oh no, it's good. It's very exciting. And I mean, talk about accessibility. A lot of our message here over the past couple of years has been about making technology accessible. And I mean, this is just one small step into making technology more and more accessible and manageable.
I love it. I love it. Man, Josh, thank you so much for coming and taking some of your time to show us how to build this and how cool this is. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And like I said, I could not have done it without you and Kent. I really appreciate your insight into this. Thank you for having me today. It's been a blast. I hope to do it again soon.
Awesome. I'm going to hold you to that. I will definitely have you back on the show to show us more cool stuff, my friend.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right. You guys know what to do at home. Go ahead and get down in the description. Connect with Josh. He likes LinkedIn. I'm trying to get him more active on Twitter. So go ahead and connect with him on both. And then please leave some comments. Let him know how awesome you thought this was. Go ahead and like, subscribe, all that good stuff that I normally ask you to do. Much love from me. I'll see you in the next one.